Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of the Fireside Chat. Today we're going to get a bit controversial. Once again, for those of you just joining us, my name is Devin Moore. My friends just call me Moore, and there's something we need to discuss before there's ever going to be productive conversation again in our country. Namely, we need to talk about how liberals have ruined politics and destroyed all male culture. Or more importantly, why that narrative is false as all hell and a fabrication of the media. See, what happens when I say liberal? You think of some whiny, annoying, insane, pronoun-obsessed gal with colored hair the shade of a poodle. And believe it or not, we're all subject to media manipulation, even if you yourself try not to consume any of it. Everybody has that picture of this annoying liberal in their head, even those on the left. We're influenced by our friends, our culture, our social circles, and a 30-second TikTok seems to do more to sway the average American than anything else this side of the Mississippi. It's a problem we need to talk about. The image we have of liberals and the relation to the Democratic Party is, to put it bluntly, completely false. It is a stereotype based on memes. A successful stereotype that seems to have worked and possess every form of our narrative. No one sees any aspect of the Democratic Party's platform when it comes to economics, immigration, anything of that matter. Because all we're interested in is seeing a bunch of whiny memes and leftist cry on Twitter. That's it. That's all we're talking about. If you watch certain pundits, online personalities, you'll see this narrative. Shoe-on-Head, a extremely popular YouTube commentator, recently published a 30-minute video somewhere on this subject explaining why Kamala Harris lost the election. In that 30 minutes, she shits on Kamala Harris for about 5, then talks about obnoxious ex-Twitter tweets and bad CNN guest takes. It's 25 minutes of why Kamala Harris lost, dedicated and devoted to literally every liberal, annoying, obnoxious kid on the internet, completely detached to any part of Kamala Harris or her campaign. That's why Kamala Harris lost. But in truth, she's right. Those annoying kids on Twitter that everyone hates, they became the narrative. But that's not Kamala Harris's fault. That's us and the media's fault for letting these annoying, obnoxious spaces become the mainstream narrative. People live and exist more than just online. In fact, pause for a second. We're going to go outside and touch some grass. There we go, folks. We're finally outside where liberals can't hurt us. Now, you're going to have to forgive me on the format of today's episode. We're doing things a little differently just to prove a point. See, that point being is that the folks you see that cause Kamala Harris to supposedly lose, they don't exist in the real world. Now, that's not to say that these individual liberals who create such annoying echo chambers aren't, in fact, a real in-person thing. But the problem is they exist majoritively online. Kamala Harris cannot control every single liberal Democrat that makes a post on Twitter, every single feminazi that wants to say something obnoxious, right? Yet, she is supposedly responsible for sending the Democratic Party so far left that it caused Donald Trump to win. This is a falsehood. This is a lie. The problem we have is that we know we are all being lied to. You see, folks know the media is lying on the left. Folks know the media is lying on the right. But the problem is we are not adjusting our frequencies to account for that. And we are willing to either tune out a majority of journalism that actually does good to block out all the noise because folks are exhausted, or we're going to believe the little falsehoods that we see almost on a daily basis, be it from TikTok, Joe Rogan's podcast, anywhere else, just in passing. And that's where our fundamental issue lies. You see, the entirety of the left is composed of supposedly crazy liberal socialist commies that have no semblance in reality. I'm here to disprove that falsehood. As an existing person myself who votes Democrat. Now, I don't particularly consider myself part of the party, but I do vote Democrat for the majority of things, and I'll tell you one reason why, and that reason being their economic policies. Because they are similar to the economic policies of FDR in the 1930s and 1940s that helped get us out of the greatest depression that this economy has ever had. But of course, people don't know these policies. If you take a look at any single issue, boiled down to it, Democrats win when you take their name out of it. Look at Obamacare versus the Affordable Care Act. Now, Obamacare is widely unpopular, demonized even, communistic in fact. And why is that? It's the same thing as the Affordable Care Act, yet the Affordable Care Act has much higher approval numbers. Republicans and the GOP have created an echo chamber. Nothing can permeate that echo chamber. It's asinine. We can't have a proper conversation when we're all living on two different extremes. Now, there are bad extremes on the right, there are bad extremes on the left. I will concede that fact. But the bad extremes on the left get shut out of the Democratic Party for better or worse. Trump is that right extreme. Trump is the defining figure of the GOP at this point. Now, you'll have to forgive me for my rambling a little bit. I have a tendency to go on and on, but fortunately I have to be a little scripted with this one. You see, the GOP has painted everybody left of them as crazed socialist space unicorns. It's insane. And we have taken it hook, line, and sinker. Kamala Harris was a moderate. She did not want to defund the police. She campaigned with Liz Cheney, a Republican who voted with Donald Trump on policy 90% of the time. Historically, Democrats and Republicans have had a moderate member of the opposite party in their administration. The person that bucked that trend, Donald J. Trump, did not do that. We all agree that the rich elites are a problem in society. That's why I try to not vote for the rich elites. But Donald Trump is a New York socialite Yankee who came to the South and tried to be a damn Southerner for 20 minutes, and people bought it hook, line, and sinker. We have a phrase for that where I came from. It's called carpetbaggers. In America, we're currently dealing with something that's crossed the cultural divide. The recent shooting and death of a United Healthcare CEO at the hands of apparently Luigi Mangiano. Now, as of now, the facts of the case are still out to be interpreted, and we're going to have to wait to see what this trial ends up being. But you'll notice the public reaction. Folks left and right almost unanimously agree that what he did, while not justified, and we cannot support murder, understandable, reasonable. He lashed out in anger at a societal injustice that he was subjected to. That's normal. That happens. Doesn't mean it should, but it does. And you have conservative media painting him as a far-left agitator, someone who's trying to start a class warfare to affect you, the American people, when most folks see through that. Most conservatives know that if put in his shoes, they might can push the same thing. They realize that. That far left that they want you to be the enemy of, they ain't real out here. They're real in there. That guy was a rich, somewhat wealthy, middle-class family. But he too was overburdened by an expensive, complex system that exists for the profit of a few. A profit for rich elite. How can we address that? We agree these problems are complex, multifaceted even. But what we have is a single individual who runs for office and says, I alone can fix it. And then decides that he's going to put in positions of power some of the richest, most corrupt people you had ever seen. His administration is going to be so rich, it will be the richest in American history. The only time it's come close was during his first term, in which he got nothing done, but gave his buddies a bunch of money. The only thing that Trump got passed during his first term was a tax cut for the rich. A tax bill that decided to raise taxes on the middle and lower class. Raise taxes on folks in blue states. But again, folks don't see that because these problems are complicated. So all Donald Trump has to do is say that it's that damn government, those damn Democrats. That's what's causing your taxes to go up. Ignore the smoke and mirrors. Ignore the man behind the curtain. He blames everybody else but himself. Recently, he had a 60 Minutes interview in which he said that his main campaign promise of lowering grocery prices will not happen. It's difficult. It's complicated. Yeah, of course it is. We know that. What you saw in this election was majority of the voters who were highly engaged in politics and paying attention tended to go for Kamala Harris. Now, unfortunately, this is a minority of the population, so it didn't make a damn difference. But what did you have going for Trump? 80% of the younger first-time voters went for Donald Trump because he was the change. He was the difference. This is not a Donald Trump issue. This is an issue with the conservative media, with the online video content, and everything that we have wrapped ourselves in to create a bubble. We have to break out of that bubble. I'm outside freezing in the middle of winter because I'm here to tell you these people don't exist. Conservatives would rather you believe that Joe Biden got a bunch of zombies to vote for him than that the average person voted Democrat. Folks, I'm here to tell you I am one of the average people. I have voted Democrat since I turned age 18. I don't like every single Democrat, and I'll tell you this, I would have voted against some of them had it not been for the actions of the Republican Party. But then you have folks on the other side who will not blame the actions of the Democratic Party. They will blame the actions of a few loud minorities on the internet. Now, when I say minority, I mean a group of folks who don't represent the wide spectrum of ideology that exists in this country. Now, there's something else I'd like to address, and that's the supposed failure of the left-wing and Democrats to appeal to younger men, specifically those of my demographic. Now, while there may be a kernel of truth to this failure, I think it's important we address the fallacy that is believing right-wing media when they say these things. You see, the conservative media and the GOP has divided us, economically speaking, for 30, 40 years now. We cannot ignore this. The fact that they have done nothing to improve the lives of average Americans is the fundamental issue, because they have caused the problems in our economic society. They have caused the problems in our social societies, refused to address those problems, and then blamed it on Democrats, liberals, and the left, of which they have painted as a single monolith. It is not a failure of the Democrats or leftists to appeal to younger men. It is a success in the propaganda that the GOP and right-wing media has put out that has caused this divide. The Democratic messaging is generally economic stability, taxing the rich to help improve the country. At least that's what I believe. This is the same economic policies that go back to FDR and the Great New Deal. The problem is that the Democratic Party has gone more and more right-wing at times, and that's why the progressive aspects of the party still appeal to most folks. You listen to AOC speak, you actually hear what she says rather than what the right-wing media tells you to hear. AOC has great ideas for the most part. Investing in clean energy would help our energy independence, get us off foreign oil. But we don't talk about those things because we're all focused on gender identity and bathrooms. The failure of the left and the Democrats is to point that out more. Is that you want economic stability, you want betterment, stop letting the corporations run everything. These regulations that they supposedly attack all the time, those are in place because otherwise corporations would literally kill you, give you cancer, and then refuse you health care simply to make a buck. That is the issue. Conservatives are so focused on trying to appeal to an angry demographic and to rile you up with rage that we've ignored the entirety of the plot. We got to fix that. I challenge folks to see what the other side is actually doing. Get out of these online spaces. Go outside. Touch grass. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful world we live in. Liberals ain't out there to go kill you. Hell, most of them ain't even out there. We need to get to a better position. You're gonna be wondering. The thesis of this episode is this. You are in an echo chamber. Take this as your way out. I am a white, straight man. I ain't ever asked or been told my pronouns. I don't really give a damn about it. But I'm not falling for these cultural traps that they're setting. Hell, I am from the deep south. And even I can see through their lies. So why can't you? Why do you believe something just because it reaffirms some social opinion you already had? And I know most of my friends, most of my folks will say, well, I don't watch Fox News. I don't look up any of that information. But you're still putting out their talking points, almost verbatim. Now, I guarantee as I've been talking, you've had instinctual comments come up to your head to rebut what I have said. In fact, I encourage you down in the comments, let me know what they are. I'm happy to fact check anything. But even if you don't engage in culture or social media, that media is still going to infect what you do every day. Your friends may hear a story about Joe Rogan seeing furries in school. You might repeat that story, not thinking nothing of it. Now, folks, I'm losing light out here. It was a wonderful day. I encourage you, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Share with your family. We got to get somewhere. Go touch grass. Get outside. Stop getting your news from a 60-second TikTok. Stop getting your news from Twitter. Don't believe everything you say just because it was put there. Because I'll tell you what, the problems we face, not just as a country or people, but as a world, a lot more complicated that can be covered in 60 seconds on YouTube. Watch this space. We're all in it together.